Hello, everyone. Happy Friday Eve, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're really going to be talking about mastering audit quality and modernizing your audit practice. My name is Kara, one of the digital audit managers here at Inflo. And in today's webinar, we're going to focus on how technology can support your firm in meeting the new quality management standards coming up in December. So whether you're from a small firm or part of a growing practice, this session is all about helping you strengthen your audit quality without adding complexity. So a couple of housekeeping items while we get people some time to join from their other meetings. So of course, reminder, please keep yourself on mute. Help us with any of that background noise during the webinar. You do have a chat option to put questions or comments, but we will be saving that Q&A for the end. So feel free to drop those in as we're going through today's webinar, and we'll address those at the end of our session. We are also recording today's session, so please be aware that we have that recording started, and of course, we will be sharing that recording afterwards. And of course, if you have any tech issues, try just closing out the webinar, joining back in. That will usually fix it for you. Now, a little bit about myself. So as I mentioned, my name is Kara, and I'm one of the digital audit managers here at Inflo. I've been with Inflo for coming up on 2 years, but I have also spent a good portion of my career in audit. So now really what I do here at Inflo is work with firms that are going through some sort of a technology evaluation process and really discuss how Inflo can fit into that and help modernize your audits. So nice to officially meet you all and spend some time with you today. So let's take a quick look at what we'll be covering today. So of course, we're going to start by setting the scene, really looking at why quality management is more critical today than ever, and sort of get into what's driving that urgency. Then we'll walk through the impact of the new standards. So what's changing, where those pressure points are, and why many firms are finding it challenging to prepare and respond effectively. Then from there, we'll explore how the right technology can make a real difference. So not just in meeting the requirements, but also in helping your firm build stronger, more consistent audit quality across your engagements. And then we'll bring that to life with some practical workflows and examples inside Inflo's QMS. And we'll show you how you can strengthen audit quality without adding unnecessary complexity or administrative burden to your teams in your firm. And then finally, as I mentioned, we'll wrap up with a Q&A at the end, as well as a quick look at how you can take the next step, including a special offer that we're excited to share with you. But first, before we dive deeper, let's hear from you all. And we've got a poll question that we're going to pop up on the screen. So what we'd like to hear from you on now is, when it comes to managing audit quality in your firm, what is the biggest concern that you're facing right now? So we've got a couple of options up there for you, whether that's, keeping things consistent across your teams, staying on top of documentation, or just finding the time for monitoring and remediation. It's helpful for us to know sort of what's on top of mind across the profession. And of course, maybe it's all of the above. Don't be shy. I'm sure you won't be alone in that. So go ahead and submit your response, and then we'll take a look at the results here in a moment. Looks like we've got a fair amount of those responses in. So I'm going to go ahead and end that poll and share the result with you here. So what you're seeing now on the screen is the results of that. So honestly, kind of split across those, which, I'm not surprised by, but a good mix of all of those coming from the group when it comes to, what that biggest concern is. So three-way tie for consistency across your teams, documentation and evidence, and really all of the above. So hopefully that's showing you that, we do have firms that are really in different stages across, those concerns in moving forward and complying with these standards. So now let's start by taking a step back and really asking, why is quality management such a hot topic right now? So first, regulatory expectations are clearly rising. The standards have evolved and there's more scrutiny now than ever before. It's no longer just about delivering a compliant audit, and firms are really now expected to manage audit quality more proactively and systematically. Now, at the same time, audits themselves are becoming more complex. The volume of data and the pace of change in your clients' businesses, as well as rising stakeholder expectations, are all putting added pressure on audit teams. And then there's, of course, that external perception, which we always have to be worried about. So quality really isn't just a compliance issue anymore. It's becoming more of a brand issue. And a reputation for high quality audits can really become a true differentiator, especially for firms looking to grow or attract top talent to their firm. And of course, the new quality management standards themselves are also forcing a shift. So not just in what we do, but also in how we do it. And that's really what today's session is all about. So for many firms, this shift feels like both a challenge and an opportunity. And those that embrace it now can really position themselves ahead of the curve, especially when it comes to getting help from the right technology. And that's particularly true right now, as we all know that the December 15th deadline is quickly approaching. So by that date, all firms are expected to have a fully implemented quality management system. So implemented is key. You can't just have made your decision by that date. It needs to be fully implemented. So not just an improvement plan, but a working, documented system that's aligned with the new standards. Now, many firms are likely already well on their way, but for those who haven't gotten started yet, the pressure is certainly mounting. And the tools, time, and clarity to meet this requirement aren't always easy to come by. So now let's talk briefly about what's actually changing with the new quality management standards. I think the key shift here is really moving away from simple box checking to true quality management. So I've already mentioned it's really not just about that compliance aspect anymore. It's about building systems, demonstrating leadership, and embedding continuous improvement across the entire firm. So these new standards are more proactive and also risk-based. So instead of reacting to issues after they happen, firms are now expected to actively identify and assess risks to quality, and then design processes to prevent or respond to them. So there's also a strong emphasis on taking more of a firm-wide view of quality now. So not only focusing on what happens at the engagement level anymore. It's really about how your entire firm manages quality. So from the tone at the top to your firm culture to then utilizing those consistent processes. But one of the most important new requirements is in continuous monitoring and remediation. So no longer enough to just do an annual quality review and call it a day. Firms really need to be able to spot issues in more real time or near real time and then take the appropriate action quickly. Now, these standards, as we all know, are meant to apply to firms of all sizes, but that doesn't mean they're easy to implement across all sizes of firms. So especially for those firms without dedicated quality teams or robust systems. And that's where many of the challenges, as well as, of course, the opportunities lie. Because with the right platform, this level of proactive firm-wide quality management is absolutely achievable. Now, that's what I want to touch on next is some of those common challenges that we're seeing from firms that we work with. So for many firms, implementing a quality management system that meets the new standards is a real challenge for a few different reasons. Now, one of the most common issues that we see is a reliance on manual processes. So without automation, it's of course incredibly difficult to ensure consistency, especially across different teams, partners, or even office locations. Many firms are also currently using spreadsheets to track quality, which may work in the short term, but even every Excel lover knows they're fragile, right? And error prone and hard to scale ultimately. One wrong formula or missed update could completely undermine your quality monitoring when you're, completing that within Excel. And then there's also often a lack of real-time visibility into engagement risks. So problems are really only spotted after the fact when it's already too late to fix them efficiently or without additional cost or time added to it. And then ultimately, this just leads to a reactive mindset. So dealing with issues as they arise rather than preventing them or learning from them. And that's just not sustainable, especially with the new standards in place, which we know are focusing more on that proactive real-time monitoring. But the good news is with the right tools, these challenges become much easier to overcome, and we'll show you how that works just in a moment. But now, before we move on, we'd love to hear from you guys again, and we're going to put up another poll question here for you all to answer. So we've got that up on the screen here, and we've talked about the challenges that firms face, but now we want to hear from you guys. How is your firm currently managing audit quality in your practice? Are you using a dedicated quality management system technology already today? Or are you potentially still relying on spreadsheets, ad hoc checks, or built-in tools within your audit software? Go ahead and select the option that best represents your current approach. And if you're not sure, that's an option as well. And again, no shame here. I'm sure you wouldn't be alone there. So let's look here. It looks like most folks have responded. So I'm going to go ahead and end that poll and share the result. So what you're seeing here is we do have one pretty clear winner, right? Is that most firms are in that, spreadsheets and manual reviews world, which is aligned with what I would expect. That is what most firms have been doing up until this point. And really, that's great for today because we're going to talk about some technology options that can help you all with that. So when it comes to quality management, the right technology doesn't just make things easier, it also can help make things possible for your firm. So first, you get one centralized place to track risk across your firm. Instead of juggling all of that across emails, spreadsheets, maybe siloed notes, depending on your situation, everything is then centralized and maintained and visible within one system with clear ownership and accountability identified. You can also then build consistency into your engagements. So using templates, prompts, and embedded checks to ensure that key quality steps aren't missed, even when your teams are under time pressure. And then technology also enables that real-time oversight, which we know is going to be important for these standards. So engagement partners, quality reviewers, and firm leadership can monitor progress and risk indicators without waiting for post-engagement reviews. And then finally, it helps you move from reactive to proactive, which is again part of that shift that the standards are looking to make. You can then spot patterns, identify recurring issues, and ultimately take action all before they turn into bigger problems down the road. And this is really what modern quality management is all about. Using technology to create that confidence, reduce your administrative burden, and ultimately protect your firm's reputation, which is really important. I'm sure we would all agree. So now, what does this actually look like in practice? So in Inflow, firms are able to take a structured, repeatable approach to quality without having to reinvent the wheel. So we've already built out purpose-designed workflows and are like risk assessment templates, quality review sign-offs, remediation logs, and things of that nature, all designed to support your firm in meeting the new standards with confidence. You'll also see monitoring dashboards, live alerts, and automated tracking, all tools that really help surface issues before they become problems down the line, as we've discussed, and really help keep everyone aligned. So in the demo, we'll walk through exactly how some of these workflows come together in the platform. And now that's what we're going to do next. So we're going to actually jump into the Inflo QMS platform and take a look at how Inflo actually supports firms in managing audit quality on a day-to-day basis. So we'll walk through some of those key workflows that we just mentioned, from setting up your system of quality management to then using embedded quality information and checkpoints to really seeing how real-time alerts can flag issues early. And then as you watch, I want you to think about how this compares to your current process. So we know a lot of you are in, managing your quality system in Excel or other manual methods today. So think through how that compares, of course, making note of what you're doing manually today, but what feels hard to monitor or control that maybe a system could assist you with. And then want to mention, our goal here isn't to replace your team's judgment, it's really to support it. So Inflo will give your team or your people a smarter, more structured way to deliver high quality audits aligned with the new standards, but still flexible to your firm's culture and workflow. So let's now take a look. So up on my screen now, if you've evaluated our digital audit platform, or maybe you're a current client, this would look familiar. This is the digital audit platform within Inflo. And when it comes to quality management, that is an administrative role that you would give to the individuals who need access to your firm's quality management system. So once you have that admin role, you can then access that sort of restricted area. Now, when you first launch your quality management system, you will be prompted to configure that system initially. Now, of course, I've already gone through that for preparation for today, but there's really just some high-level key questions that you'll fill in. Maybe mainly identifying those responsible individuals, right? So documenting who has ultimate responsibility for your QMS, operational responsibility, and things of that nature. You will indicate the implementation date of your system, which of course we know needs to be ready to go by December 15th of this year. So that's what a lot of firms are marching towards. And then you will go through some guided configuration fields. So you can use our built-in hybrid intelligence, what we call Inflo High, to essentially get you a head start on your QMS. And that is where you would be applying the templates that we've built into our platform that would essentially get you somewhere similar to what I'm showing you on the screen here. Now, you don't have to use that hybrid intelligence. You can also create your system from scratch, but of course, it's not truly from scratch. You would still be using our built-in library of risks and common or potential responses to essentially build that system out. But we always recommend use the technology that we've built for you, right? So when you choose to utilize Inflo High, again, you'll go through some configuration questions, and then you'll start from a similar point that I'm showing you today. So want to quickly touch a little bit on what you're seeing on the screen here in Inflo's QMS, and then we'll continue talking through what your firms would do to document. So the QMS is really set, or the QMS dashboard, which is what I'm showing you here, is separated into two main sections. So you've got your graphs here on the left-hand side, and then your quality risks table on the right-hand side. So in your graphs, we first have heat maps for your spectrum of inherent risks, as well as what those residual risks are. And of course, these are based off of scoring that we would document. So the inherent risk scoring, and then the residual becomes the difference between your inherent risk and then the reduction scores that you give for your responses to those risks, which of course we'll talk about. But these two graphs are showing you that visually, right, and plotting those risks and responses for you. And then in the middle here, some additional graphs to show you your QMS across the 8 QMS components, their upcoming reassessment dates, as well as the responsible users. Now, one thing I do like to point out is any of the graphs in your QMS are dynamic. So what that means is if I wanted to focus on a particular QMS component, I could click on that component and you'll notice that my quality risk table has filtered and updated, as well as my spectrum graphs here. So you can do that by any of the graphs here within your QMS. So when it comes to doing that ongoing monitoring and sort of reassessment, that especially comes in handy so that you could filter by upcoming reassessment dates, for example, to really focus your attentions, or even potentially by yourself as a user so that I can instead only focus on those pieces of the quality management system that I'm personally responsible for. And then, as I mentioned, on the right-hand side of the screen here, you've got that quality risk table. Now, when setting this up for today, I did utilize Inflo High, as I mentioned. So the 142 risks that you're seeing in this table were brought in for me by Inflo High based off of the configuration that I did. So again, this is a nice jumping off point for your firms. You're not 100% married to this, right? You can tweak it as needed as you're going through sort of your documentation exercises, but it does give you a great starting point. So what you're seeing in your quality risk table here, and I'm going to focus on number one here, is a listing of those risks, right? So first one here being that our firm culture does not demonstrate a commitment to quality. I can see what quality objective that has been tied to. And I haven't documented this yet, so we don't have any scores yet. That would be part of our exercise in documenting our QMS for our firm. We've also got who's responsible, right? Who's the responsible user for this risk, and what is the current reassessment deadline or current deadline for that. And then you'll notice on the right-hand side, we also have linked responses. So that is also built into Inflo's QMS and something that can be brought in for you by Inflo's hybrid intelligence so that, you know, potential responses for addressing that risk are also already in the platform for you to just further document. Now, when it comes to what your firms would do next, that is where you will then take this starting point and then document out your risks. So you can see I've done some examples already for today, but if I hadn't documented these out, I would be able to click on the risk name there. That will bring me to the update risk screen. And I would be able to put in my risk description, right? So a description of the risk and why it's important to include it in our QMS. Your responsible users and reassessment dates are identified, but you will also be responsible for scoring the risk. Now, one thing I want to point out is where you're seeing we have learn more hyperlinks, that will either give you additional information directly tied to the standards, like what you're seeing here, or some additional details around the scoring scale, for example. So when I'm thinking through and documenting, the likelihood of this risk happening, It's a 0 to 5 scale, 0 being none, 5 being very likely. So we would identify what our score for that is and then provide some justification for that. And then similarly for the effect score. So if this risk did occur, then what would be, the scoring for that happening on that 0 to 5 scale. So starting with, what Inflo High suggested, as I mentioned, your firm really just needs to put in those risk descriptions and your score information. The rest of what you saw in the screen is built into Inflo's QMS. So that would sort of be one of your first exercises, is going through and fully documenting, the risks that pertain to your QMS. And then it's a similar process for also documenting your responses. So again, focusing on that first risk that we have listed here, firm culture not demonstrating a commitment to quality, you'll see that in Inflo's QMS, we already have 3 potential responses linked. So it could be that at our firm, we have all personnel sign some sort of an annual commitment to quality. On top of that, we could potentially also be doing regular training. Maybe that's for new hires or on an annual basis. And we could potentially have some other type of regular company-wide communications where we are reaffirming our firm commitment to quality. If all of these would apply to your firm, great. You would then be able to document these. But as I mentioned, you can tailor this. So maybe we really don't have any of those company-wide communications just focused on our commitment to quality. But we do have personnel, signing an annual commitment and training of some sort. I can delete that third additional linked response, and instead I would then go through and document these. So when I click into the response, it will bring me to a similar update screen that we saw to the risk as well. And instead, what we will be documenting here is a description about the response, right? So what does this annual commitment to quality look like at our firm? You could provide details in there around, is this annual for everyone in January, right? January 1st. Is this on their anniversary date for the company? Is it electronic? Is it an inked signature, right? What does that look like? Provide those details, as well as details around how that response actually addresses the risk that it's linked to. Now, I want to point out you can add supporting files and documents within the system as well, just to help make sure that your QMS is complete and fully documented. So in this example, maybe that is an attachment of the actual commitment, right? So that we've got details of what that includes. Now, we've already built into our platform those specified responses, which are directly indicated in the standards, right? So you'll see that in the system as you're documenting it, where those specified responses are. And then really our exercise here, after we've documented the description and how it addresses the risk, is to then ultimately give that response a reduction score. So we've already scored the inherent risk of this happening, right? So that our firm culture does not demonstrate a commitment to quality. And now we're going to document a reduction score for mitigating that risk with this response, right? So that is where then your teams would put in, like the numerator, the number for the reduction, right? So maybe for an annual written commitment to quality, not the strongest control, right? Maybe they don't even read it and they just sign it and move on with their day. So maybe we're only going to give that a 1-point reduction score, right? Your teams would think through that and again justify, right? So provide some details around that reduction score and why you think it's appropriate. And then similarly for the effect, and then save that into the system. Now that is where your inherent in your residual graphs will then update for you, right? So the system will automatically calculate that difference in scoring. So taking that inherent risk score, reducing it by the reduction that you gave, and then that is how we will get our residual risks there. Now, once your firms go through and fully document the risks in your QMS, as well as the responses to those risks, you will then essentially be ready to complete your QMS. And that is what will then move you into that ongoing monitoring and reassessment mode. So I'm just going to force that in this one so that we can continue to talk about it. But within Inflo's QMS, you will have that action to complete the system, just so that it will now tell Inflo we are in that ongoing reassessment. Now, the system will ensure that you remain in compliance with the standards. So every reassessment date is automatically set to be 1 year from your implementation date. Now you can change those as you're building out your system to be more frequent, right? Maybe you've got biannual processes, you'll want to address those more frequently, or maybe it's just a higher risk area. You can make those dates more frequent, but of course you can't make them further out than 1 year. The system will ensure that you're remaining in compliance with those standards. So what that then means is, now that I've completed my system, the dashboard that you're seeing here will help your, your responsible users in that sort of continuous monitoring and ongoing assessment, right? So I'll talk about the official reassessments that you'll do in the platform, but also just want to touch a bit on the functionality that we have built here to help you with that. So for example, one of the quality objectives is in the realm of including inspection of completed engagements, in your firm processes. So I just filtered by that quality objective there. You can see here we have a few different quality risks, right? So ensuring that we have a process in place to identify completed engagements that are ready for review. There's a risk that maybe the engagement review process just isn't adhered to, whatever the case may be. You can focus in on one quality objective. And in this case, if you're a firm that's also utilizing Inflo's digital audit platform, it's really easy to then pop over to the digital audit platform. You can even have it open in multiple windows to sort of work side by side, to then go identify those completed engagements for review and then go through that process, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can sort of slice and dice the data in your QMS, in your system to help you with that ongoing monitoring and reassessment. Now, when it comes to the official reassessments within the platform, once you've completed your QMS, as I did via the cog menu there, that will open this option to reassess. So you will need to be reassessing your quality risks on at least an annual basis, as well as the linked responses to those risks. Now, we do maintain your risk assessment history so that you'll always, have visibility into that and have that logging. But as your responsible users use the tool to know that those reassessment dates are coming up, right? We've got those graphs to help you guys with that. We can then document the reassessment of this risk straight from within the system. So we have an update to the risk description here, as well as our actual reassessment. So again, details would be put in there about the reassessment that you did, and it could be no changes to scoring, or justifications are required. It could be that there are adjustments needed. You would be able to document that within your scoring here, and then of course put in those justifications and update that. So that is where then, as I mentioned, when you go to that previous risk assessment screen, you'd be able to see that history as your system evolves and you're doing those reassessments. Now, this is our opportunity, as I mentioned, to change that date. So I have it set up that my system is implemented December 15th, 2025. So my first reassessment would need to be done by December 15th, 2026. And this is now going to bump that out another year. So again, ensuring we maintain compliance with the standards. But if I needed to make this sooner, I could absolutely do that and change that date there. And then when it comes to the responses as well, it's a similar process. So when you're on the linked responses screen, you will then have that reassessment option here, where similarly it will bring you into the screen where you can essentially update those if and as needed. Now, another thing to cover here is naturally we all want to be perfect, but sometimes things don't go to plan, right? So we also have built in the ability to document your findings as well. So you can do that a few different ways. You can click on the flag directly here. You can go from the menu next to a risk or a response if you want to tie that finding to that risk or to that response. And within the system, we have different findings that you can document. So if it's an actual deficiency as per the standards, of course, we've got that built into the system. So what you'll see is you'll give a title here for your finding as well as a description, right? So what is the finding? Where it's a deficiency, there will be additional fields that will be required as per the standards. And we've got those learn more hyperlinks for you guys to get more details there. But it could also just be an improvement opportunity. So not a deficiency per the standards, but an improvement opportunity nonetheless. You can document those as well as anything else that doesn't really fit in those two categories. You can then relate it to quality objectives, a quality risk, or a specific response. But key here is to document that root cause analysis, right? So details around how you found this finding, as well as details for what the remedial action is. And you can see here that it may be a multi-step remedy of some sort, right? So thinking about that annual commitment to quality again, maybe it didn't go out to everyone this year. There was some sort of a technology glitch and it only went to new employees and not existing. We could build in where maybe the first action is to correct for this year, get it out to the remaining employees. And then the second, more longer term action is to make sure that that glitch doesn't happen again. You can document that in here as well as who's responsible and other information that you're seeing on the screen, and save that as in progress, right? So that you can continue to track it while those remedial actions are happening. And of course, all of those findings will be maintained in your finding summary screen here so that you've got that history. And then once you are, or the remedial action is complete, right? So this is one that I had documented previously. You can go ahead then and add that conclusion, right? What you did to check and ensure that everything was resolved, and then ultimately resolve that finding within the tool. Again, we will still maintain that history of all of those findings in your summary here. Now, the other two pieces that I will touch on quickly is we do have some additional functionality in your cog menu here. So in your firm and QMS information, this is important to fully document your QMS for your firm. So who is the individual that has ultimate responsibility? What's sort of the nature and circumstances of our firm, our size, our locations, the clients that we serve, the competency of those individuals, right? All important to have in a fully documented QMS, as well as if your firm is part of a network and your network, controls some of this, right? So you would also then be able to document the requirements that are established by your network and sort of those services and resources that may be provided. So let's now transition back to our presentation here and wrap up for today. Now that we've gone through the demo here, we want to pop up another poll to hear from you all again. So we're going to pop up our third poll here up onto the screen. and really want to hear from you all. What's your top goal in strengthening quality in your firm? So, as you've just seen from the demo, there are many ways that technology can help you sort of raise the bar on your audit quality. But we also know that each firm comes into this with different priorities. So we'd love to hear from you. What's that top goal? Is it improving consistency across your jobs? Maybe reducing that regulatory risk? Or maybe it's saving time and administrative effort. Go ahead and let us know what matters most to you. And then once we've got those responses in, of course, we will share those. Give everyone just a couple more seconds here to let us know those responses. All right, it looks like we've got most everyone in. So I am going to go ahead and end that poll and share the results. And what you will see is we've got another clear winner here, which is that really firms' top goal is meeting those new standards more confidently, right? And then close second is saving time and administrative burden. So not too surprised there. That's common areas that we hear from our firms when it comes to getting ready to comply with these new standards. So now at the end of the day, technology should really reduce friction and not create it. So the key here is to embed quality in ways that feels natural and manageable. So, and then ultimately use data to support decisions and not just record them. One of the biggest concerns that we hear from firms is that improving quality is going to slow them down or add more administrative burden, which we saw in the previous poll is a concern for the group here today. But the key is really to start with what your firm already does well. So build on your strengths and then use technology to add structure, visibility, and consistency where it matters most. And we always say here at Inflo that the best systems aren't there to replace your people. They're really there to help guide them. So technology can give your team clarity on what's expected and help them stay aligned even under pressure. And then, of course, crucially, you want to make quality visible across the firm as well. So when everyone can see what's working and where there are gaps, it helps build that culture of accountability and improvement. And that's really how you strengthen quality without adding complexity. So today, hopefully we've shown you how Inflo QMS can help strengthen that audit quality without adding a lot of added complexity, giving you structure, consistency, and ultimately confidence in heading into these new standards. And it's really not just about ticking compliance boxes within Inflo QMS. It's about delivering better audits, building stronger teams, of course, and ultimately reclaiming time, so not adding on additional time. But we didn't want to just talk about what's possible. We also want to give you guys something practical, so something real today that you can take away and start using. So if you haven't heard yet, Inflo has a special offer for US firms of all sizes. So we recently released that you can now get free access to Inflo QMS for one user per firm. So there's no sales pitch, there's no time limit, and there's really no catch. It's just a real opportunity for every firm to be able to prepare for the December 15th deadline with confidence. So a couple of things. This is a self-serve experience, meaning you can sign up and really start exploring and begin strengthening your system all at your own pace. So you'll get access to our full QMS solution that I showed you just now. It's not a different version or a more stripped down version. And really it includes built-in workflows that align to SQMS 1, as we all need. Those guided templates to help you get started fast, right, with Inflo's hybrid intelligence. We already have on-demand training resources available that would be provided so that you'll know how to get started in the system confidently. And then, of course, you always have the ability to scale later. So Our offering is for one free user. If you decide that you want to add additional users later, we can certainly help you do that. And of course, we know that all firms have the same quality obligations, regardless of the resources that they have available. So this offer is really designed to help bridge that gap. As I mentioned, if you want to add more of the users later, great, you can absolutely do that. But in the meantime, we really wanted to remove the biggest barrier and make sure that every firm has the chance to start strong. So it's part of how we're supporting the accounting profession, not only by building great tools, but by also making them accessible when firms need them the most. At Inflo, we're really passionate about helping firms like yourselves deliver high quality audits without burning out your teams or getting buried in spreadsheets, which I'm sure we've all done in the past. We really believe that access to scalable, smart, quality management shouldn't be reserved for only the largest firms. So this offer is just really our way to support the profession practically, purposefully, and accessibly. Now, getting started is really easy. So you'll just scan the QR code on the screen, or you can also find the information on our Inflo website. And of course, we'll follow up with a link to the recording from today, as well as a link to claim that offer if you all are interested. It really only takes a couple of minutes to activate your access, and you can be up and running in no time. And really remember, there's no time limit, so you can test it, explore it, and use it to prepare your firm for the December deadline, all on your own terms. And then it's also worth noting, Inflo QMS is a powerful solution on its own, but it's just one piece of the full Inflo platform and one piece of your ultimate quality of your audits. So our digital audit solution also brings together audit data analytics, AI-supported risk assessments, and cloud-based working papers, as well as more, really to help firms transform not just quality, but audit efficiency as well as value. So if you haven't explored our audit platform and you're curious about what that could look like for your firm, we're also happy to offer a personalized walkthrough or demo of the audit platform tailored to those needs as well. So whether you're a sole practitioner or part of a growing team, we can really show you how the whole solution fits together and where that biggest impact could be. So with that now, that's the end of the content that we had. And we don't currently have any questions added to the chat. So we'll go ahead and give you all some time back. Want to again thank you for taking the time to spend some time with us today on the webinar. Hopefully now after today you're feeling better positioned to move forward with confidence and really prepare for compliance with the new standards. So I hope everyone has a great day, a good weekend, and thanks again for joining us. Bye-bye.